sold the house, moved to Dothan, Alabama, bought like 4 acres, built the house from scratch. And he was in the army, sergeant in the army. That was it. Sold encyclopedias on the side, that was it. But she knew how to handle money, and he knew that. And he had the sense to trust her with that. Not to question anything that she did. I never heard a question. I never heard an argument about money, never heard a disagreement about money, anything anywhere having to do with anything with money. And we ate every day. So you need to write down a list of what you're not good at first for that search, because we're trying to build something solid. And then look for that in that other person. You might not find all of it, but you know, at least over half. When I was in grad school, I got frustrated, and I called my mom, like a little whining, little sniveling little brat. Wanted to quit. She didn't say much of anything. Hung up the phone. She sent me a poster with this on it. Little cat hanging from a wire, about to fall, but hanging on for dear life. Half of being smart is knowing what you're dumb at. Same thing applies here for those wolves. When you're looking for somebody, you need to think about what you're dumb at. Purpose of dating. That's a long thing. This Tanisha, we married those two years ago. The second part is marriage. Wow, we got there real quick. Yes, we get there quick. That doesn't mean that it should be less than a year. That's ENEI's guidelines. It should say no less than a year. I'm not going to be that strict. So marriage is the ultimate environment for a test of character development. You are in a space with somebody who won't laugh at you so you can make mistakes, so you can learn who you are, so you can develop your skills. That's a development of character. You develop character through sacrifice. To giving up things that otherwise you don't want to or wouldn't have to give up. That develops character. Sacrifice is critical to the development of character. Number 3, sex is supposed to follow marriage. It's not supposed to come before. We are in this insanity. And we can't imagine a group of people who had sex once a year, because it doesn't fit within this framework. It's like crazy. But you're talking about a different mind, a different mindset. And our mindset relative to sex is increasing very rapidly. For those who remember when the sex revolution occurred in this country, our sexual behavior changed. And the problem now isn't so much, even though it is to a degree, so much the sexual behavior. The problem now is that the young folks who are participating, well, number one, they don't understand the dangers. But also, they think that what they see today is the way that it's always been. They don't understand historical change because they weren't alive to see it. But if you could see it from the vantage point of 68 years, you can see how things have changed, and they're changing very, very rapidly now in a way that we're not able to predict in a way or direct. But what's interesting to me is that it's not a straightforward movement. We're turning back to the way they've always been. You study Greek and Roman society like I had to, you see we're moving in the direction of where they have always been. We just weren't assimilated enough to be welcomed into that.
That's right.
It's like if we had known that they were after our sons' behinds when they came to the African continent, then our reception of them would have been very different. And they know to study who they're dealing with, so they know when to infuse their insanity into those people. not going to try to tell anybody what to do in that area. But you could at least understand where it's come from and where it's going. And the sex revolution wasn't even about us. It was about white females. That's what it was about. Procreation, next, producing children. It's the prime directive of African compliments. Anybody who's read about our tradition knows that that was what solidified, that's what validated, that's what made it real. Having children, bringing children into the world. And in some societies, you weren't considered an adult until you did have children. Because it was that important. It wasn't a punishment. It was because it was that important. It was that value. Because we were human. And we understood how the universe worked. And the universe operates. Even European scientists tell you now, procreation, change, that's what runs the universe. Because we're following people who want to define the universe based upon how they are. There's a difference when you have ancestors who look at the universe for the model and then model themselves after that, define themselves after that, versus us saying this is the way that everything's supposed to be, and then interpreting the universe along the lines of what we are. That's the exact opposite. Induction, deduction. That's the exact opposite. And because we're under them, and we believe in them, and we love them, and we want them to love us, then we buy whatever it is that they say is science. Mm-hmm. That's sad. And even, it gets to so many points here in reading this book, more and more children are being conceived with either one or both of the adults in a drunken or high state. Mm-hmm. You think Baba Foucault, one of our ancestors, he talked about the drunken, what I call the drunken child syndrome. I think I call it that. Well, you have to imagine, if you are a serious drinker, I was a serious drinker. If you are a serious drinker, then you understand the concept of hangover. And you know how painful that is. And the only way to get out of a hangover is to get drunk again. Don't bring me that tomato juice and all, the Chesterfield. No, the only way to get out of a hangover is to get drunk again, period. So you have to imagine this baby, not only did it get your alcohol, but your baby is sitting there with the same hangover that you have. Day in and day out. Same hangover, same pain. Next, of course, family. The outcome of marriage and procreation. Institution in which a man truly becomes a man and a woman truly becomes a woman. That's when you get tested. This is when your character gets tested. This is when your character is developed. Because if you don't know children, we'll test you. They'll find ways. It's like they go to bed at night trying to, okay, pull out the tablet. Let's figure out how to test these folks. And we'll look at you like it's your fault. Rearing warriors, the final test of character. Rearing. Marie Evans distinguishes between raising children and rearing children. Raising them, you give them what they need, their food, housing, all the rest of that stuff, soccer on Saturdays, what have you. When you rear the child, you give them what they need of that. And you give them understanding of who they are, their power, and the responsibility to use that power in service of African people. That's rearing. That's hard work. That's struggle. Because then you have to engage in conflict with families who don't want you to do that, with society that doesn't want you to do that. That's difficult. It's difficult, but it makes you a stronger warrior. and I don't want to read this, but I will, if somebody emails me or messages me on Facebook, I will post this. Because this is a statement. Crow is a con term for romance, but not that superficial stuff. Because so many say, well, Baruti, why are you using the word romance? Isn't that based on the word Rome? So I said, gotta go look up something African to bring to me. Crow is the term for that. And it speaks to the spirit of loving somebody, the spirit of demonstrating your love to that person. And there are, words for that in other African languages. We just like the econ, we like tree. So I'll post this, or you send me an email, I'll send it to you. It's a statement that's in commentary notes. It's a lot. We're honoring people who are sleeping with the enemy. While they're saying that, race is irrelevant, it doesn't really mean, or I'm above race. That's what I hear from so many intellectuals. I'm above this racial thing. We all bleed red blood, that kind of mess. As if politics doesn't rule everything we say and every decision we make. The two Charles Willie, no, that was Charles V. Hamilton. The two black male scholars who were the main heads of the race versus class debate, both of them were married to Europeans. William Jennings Wilson and I can't remember Willie's last name. Both of them sleeping with the enemy. Both of them. Your loyalty is to the person with whom you sleep. And if you sleep with the enemy, your loyalty is to the enemy because you have to defend her or him first. You have to look out for their interest first. That's looking out for their people's interest. If I'm married to a European, then that's my priority. If you break into my house, I have to defend her. I don't care what you look like. If you're a black man, broke into whatever, black woman broke, I have to kill you for her. Your loyalty is to who you sleep with. I said, don't ever forget that. Your loyalty is to who you sleep with. And we want to pretend that we just, individuals, that race is irrelevant, like there isn't any historical attachment to that person or to you. You are your people. How can you be your ancestors and not your ancestors at the same time? And this is really a statement about ancestors, but it has to do with complementarity. If we are truly nation builders, and I believe that's a descriptive, that's a verb, because that means that you're building something. Another one of those things where we'll use words, but they aren't reconceptualized along warrior lines. They're just words. They just sound good. We're at war. That sounds good. We're nation builders. Oh, that sounds good. A Safo. Elder. Oh, that sounds good. If we are truly nation builders, we have to honestly ask ourselves, what is the best model of who we want to be that we can or should pass on to our children? But not really, because we already know the answer. Nation building begins and ends with complementarity. It can only sustain itself and create a viable future through the balanced pairing of women and men into married couples whose priority is family, children first. We are a child, family-centered people. We have always been a child, family-centered people. Everywhere we have existed, we have been a family, child-centered people. Everywhere, at all points in time in our story. Everywhere. Everywhere. I have never found an example to undermine this statement. We are a family, I'll say until today, where we're seeing more and more children who don't want to get married and don't want to have children. I was talking to Baruti earlier about a study that was done in Atlanta by two sisters for their master's thesis, and they came across a county in Georgia that's predominantly black, and there was a decline in the birth rate, and they wanted to find out why. So they surveyed a bunch of middle schoolers and some lower level high schoolers in terms of grade. And they were pleased. All of them wanted to have children. They were pleased. All of them wanted to be financially stable before they had children. But what disappointed them and scared them was that none of them wanted to get married. So they went back and researched. This is real. I'm thinking either 3 or 4 years ago. They went back and resurveyed and put some additional questions on the survey for the same children, the exact same children, youth. And what they came away concluding was that the main reason why they didn't was because there was no one in their community who was married or had been married. They didn't know there was nothing for, why would they think about getting married? Where's the model? Where's the example? Why would I aspire to be something that no one is if I don't see a greater benefit from it or of it? So that's part of a warrior's work, setting an example. Again, it takes a lot of strength to be with somebody for years and years and years and years, the same person. That's a lot of struggle. Children or not, that's a lot of struggle. But when you get finished with it, you're stronger in immeasurable ways. In my opinion, you're stronger in immeasurable ways. I have never done anything this difficult in my life. Getting off of drugs, getting off of alcohol, those are difficult if anybody here has been through that. That's no game. But neither one of those compares to being married to my wife. Don't tell her that. No. Oh, the first time that we said that, we were at a complementary conference, and she's sitting there right here beside me. She said, "Marriage is hard. It's hard. Marriage is hard." And I'm looking at her, I'm saying, well, we had a conversation after that. I said, you said that like it was like terror. She said, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that." I said, okay.
You know she was my professor too, right?
Yeah. She's good people.
Just in case this was recorded?
Yeah, just in case. Just in case. Just in case. It's like when I didn't know it, and some things you won't know. I didn't know that I was looking for what matched with what I didn't have. But I found that, because I'm not any good with money, but she is. She's, strong, country, simple, very moral person. So that's like, and this is where we can't get into this egos, because that's like the guide in our house. That doesn't mean it was any easier. Me?
We have a special guest with us.
Okay. Nation building begins and ends with complementarity. It can only sustain itself and create a viable future through the balanced pairing of women and men into married couples whose priority is family, children first. To do what is right for the children is to build a whole future. In this respect, those who are setting and that was something I want to talk about as well. Those who are setting the revolutionary standard need to ask themselves if their priorities are truly being set in accord with the will of our ancestors. Never settle. That's always something that I particularly say to the sisters. I said that to my daughter all her life. I don't care if there's one man for every 1,000 women. Do not settle, because you will regret it. You will regret it. That'll be very short-lived. You will regret it. You find somebody who's worthy of you. And it doesn't, age is not a factor. We have a friend in Florida who, she was 71, he was 76 when they found each other. They're still together. That was going on 10 years ago. Okay. Oh, also another point on that, and keep coming upon points in what I'm reading. We have warriors who are really working for the people, but they have taken the revolution to be more important than their relationship, more important than their children. So I've seen brothers, I just haven't seen a sister yet do this. I've seen brothers leave their families to go fight this battle. And their children and their wife have nobody now. Because they prioritize that revolution over. And nothing should be prioritized over the children. Nothing should be prioritized over the wife, of course, but nothing definitely should be prioritized over the women. If you can't do both at the same time, then you might need to go back and regroup, do some training. The East organization was an organization, we're still talking about character. East organization is one of the best organizations I've seen in terms of the establishment of rules of relationships among its members and the general community. So there were things that they set in stone that you did and or didn't do. Okay. These are real simple. Brothers should greet everyone who comes into their sacred space in a pleasant and warm manner. This calls us to change the way we are in many cases. We give praise where praise is due, not hollow stuff. Oh, you look beautiful this morning. No, she doesn't. Okay. That's, straight up lie. But when she does look beautiful, it needs to be said. And she needs to feel it. Folks are laughing about that. I guess it'd be that's funny because people will say about other people's baby, oh, your baby's so pretty, and that baby is. That baby needs some work. I'm supposed to be laughing at babies. I'm leaving this alone because you guys. Okay. Number 6, I thought was very important. Brothers must be sensitive to the needs of sisters. We must strive to perfect the workings of the household. And why did I say that? And why didn't they say sisters should be sensitive to the needs of brothers? Because balance needs to be brought into it. Sisters are more sensitive to the needs of brothers than brothers are to the needs of sisters now in relationships. That's just the way we have moved in general. I'm not going to, I'll say from my experience and from what I've seen. I'm assuming that things, are changing a little bit, but I think that's correct. I think that is correct. Enia and I do couples coaching, individual coaching too. And that's there are 2 main complaints from sisters. One of them is this: the brothers are sensitive, they'll forget, blah, blah, blah. Because we respond different, but also the other one was I don't feel protected. What was I going to say about that? No, I'll leave that. Okay. Please pay attention to number 9. We are not players or creepers, but black men We don't participate in this serial monogamy where you go from one woman to the next 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 woman. That's not what we're supposed to do. I ask folks to think about this in the context of this reality that we are in now. Because the way we're supposed to be is not in line with this. Okay. We'll leave that alone. I think this is one of the last lists in here. James Forman's negative forces. What works against being a good character? Being a good character often means that you be comfortable in the community, be comfortable in your relationship, be comfortable in yourself. And if you are a worker on the front line, the difficulty becomes even worse. It's like Europeans get divorces, but our divorce rate is higher because we haven't factored in racism. Because the stress that comes from racism makes the difficulties that exist between men and women even harder, even harsher. I don't know of any people whose men and women don't have disagreements. But when you factor in the stress of having to live day in and day out in a society that's trying to force you and keep you at the bottom, then it makes those difficulties even more difficult. I'm trying to pick out the best. If there are any, and I just said this a little while ago, but if there are any of these that you want to see or have or get the entire wording, just let me know. Send me an email. Send me a message on Facebook. Okay. For African people, virtues are divine. They include such admirable qualities as being selfless, kind, considerate, generous, attentive, humble, caring, respectful, merciful, xenophilic, that means not having a fear or hatred of strangers, and conservative of that which is good, creative, and healing. We need to conserve that which is good, creative, and healing. These qualities speak to a generosity of one's spirit and heart towards others, especially those maintaining a peaceful, harmonious, reciprocal order within the macro and microcosms of the universe. These are things we've already talked about. The primary qualities of respectful warriors: disciplined, studious, worldly, frugal, polite and courteous, generous, loving, truthful, righteously enraged, resilient, humble, observant, cautious, military-minded, dedicated, committed, and fearless and intrepid. This is a list that I stand behind. And all of these apply. We don't think about loving when we think about warriors. We think about people who fight. But I've often heard it said that revolutionaries love their people more than anybody else, because who would fight for someone who hates your guts? And most of us are not loved by our community. They see us as a detriment, not an asset. We're interfering with them loving Europeans.
That's right. That's right.
The warriors are loving. That's one of the things I admire most about Malcolm. He was a voice to be reckoned with out there on that street. But when he came through those doors, that stayed outside. And Betty saying that, Betty Shabbat saying that. He didn't bring that into my house. Military-minded? Are you going to call yourself a warrior? You don't know how to fight. You don't have any technology. You haven't taught your children technology. You haven't taught your children how to make a bow and arrow out of PVC pipes. Basics. You haven't taught them how to survive. You haven't taught them, as we saw so many older folks get burnt up in their homes in Chicago, that the wall of your house is on the sheetrock. Shingles, you can put your foot through that. People getting burnt up in their homes because they can't get out the door or the window. And you can kick your way through the wall because we don't have common sense when it comes to security. Again, everybody and anybody you're concerned about needs to be at the Comments and Security lecture online.
Barbara, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Thinking about, Makai still has that bow and arrow that y'all made in Alphabet. My son is 21 years old, and he was with Barbara some years back. He will not throw that away. And he has kept so many of the things that he has learned with you. Like, there was an assignment, it's still on the refrigerator, where he talks about, how you, prepare your non-perishable items
Mhm.
for when, if there's an emergency. And he listed out what we should be buying at this time and how you rotate. That was an assignment. And it's so many things, like little, things that he learned with you and Mama at Aquaman that he still keeps to this day, and some of them are on our refrigerator as reminders of what to do. So like, it's real, you know? So I'm just saying thank you, because, you know, everything that you have taught, our babies at this school, like they hold it, you know? He's 21, like this was 10 years ago or so, and he still has those things, so.
Wow.
Thank you. I'll just say, if you guys, if y'all don't know anything about Aquaman Institute and you want to donate money or anything to help over there, those warrior scholars, Baba does a great job. They go out there and they learn how to use the tools, the machines, and I remember when they built some things, like, it's so many things that I, as a mother, could not have taught my son had it not been for you and for the Babas that, you know, you surround yourself with, that poured into all of the young people there. So if y'all have y'all extra coins, y'all need a place to donate to, consider Aquaman House. Like, it's amazing. They're doing great things.
I appreciate that, as well as the shout out. You know, and Makai was always, he reminded me of me, because he was always so serious, but not in a mean way. He liked to think. But just a point of advice, people, one of the things that I do every year, which saves me time and money, but gives them skills, is that they have a set of video assignments on survival. And this is not all about survival, that's not all we do. That's just something that I really like to do. I give them a list of things, basic things that I think they need to learn as survivalists, that are skills that go into other areas as well. So a video on how to start a fire without a match, how to get water, in the desert, how to make a PVC pipe, bow and arrow, how to set a trap for a fish. They can look these up online, 3-5 minute videos. And when they go through that video, they may never watch it again, but they'll have that in there. And they have to write, and it's not a hard assignment, because they have to then just write down whatever it was that they saw. They don't have to think about anything, because I know that it's in there now. Once it's in there, I'm good. So, like, how do you get water when your neighborhood has been contained by European, and you can't get to Kroger, you can't get to some place that sells bottled water? How do you get water out of there? And we don't think about there's water in your pipes, there's water in the tank of your toilet, there's water in your hot water heater, there's water in your hose outside, there's water all around your house. But because we don't think in those terms, we don't prioritize our children's survival. We don't consider every exigency, every possibility of what could happen, and prepare them for it, and then going about our business. I don't care whether they like doing it or not. I don't care whether it's fun. I want to make sure my job, I have to answer to my ancestors. And if I know it and they don't have it, they're going to like, what's up? So this is a simple assignment. 1 video a week. 5 minutes to watch it, 5 minutes to write it down, and it's there forever. These are things that we should be doing. When they say the Japanese, when their children come home from school, they go to school. Not that I'm using them as any kind of a model, but the idea I think is important. Positivity empowers. When you are sad all the time, when you are depressed all the time, when you just simply see how horrible the condition is of African people day in and day out. When every time you go out, you see homeless black men, homeless black women, homeless black children who are very difficult to identify as homeless. When every time you go out, you see blue flashing lights having pulled some black person over for nothing. It works at your heart. Warriors need to stay positive also. Positivity empowers. So what I started doing, and we do this on the regular now, whenever we talk about the fight, the battle, we say we are winning. You listen to any motivation speaker, they don't tell you, you need to say, I want to be a doctor, I want to fly a plane, I want to climb Mount Everest. I am climbing Mount Everest. I am flying. I am a millionaire. Now, I don't want to be, because you're giving your brain instruction. I say your mind is your employee. You have to give it instructions so it'll know what to do, and then it can do it. If you don't give it the instructions, it's just like we should be able to equate that to the idea, if you tell a little child that they're stupid over and over again, you're just dumb. I don't even know why you're alive. Your brain isn't worth the time of day. Who would want you around? That child is going to start believing that. As untrue as it is, the child is going to start believing that. So if it works with that, then imagine what it can do with your own, your own mind. I am a warrior scholar. I am a national. I have a school. I have built a school. We are winning. There's not a question. To me, if we were losing, then why would they still be trying so hard to destroy us? Why would they be working so hard? And they're working hard at it. They're working very hard at it. Positivity comes from thinking righteously, from doing uncompromising, standing on high ground. This is doing the work when you get to see. And this it's not allowing me, and it's not the computer, it's something in my program at home. So I'm not able to read a whole chunk of this. So I'm not skipping these things because I necessarily want to. I'm skipping them because there are parts missing and I can't figure out what I said. Okay. And this is an important point. You are going to become frustrated if you're doing the work. If you don't become frustrated, you're not doing the work. I don't know anybody who's doing the work and becomes frustrated. And some of a whole chunk of the frustration, and most of what I hear about frustration is the impact of family or warriors. Trying to change them, trying to get them to bring them back down to their Negro level. And they think that they're helping because they think that you are, suppressing the children. I remember when we were in Chicago and family came by and they knew me. Okay. And they took our daughter to an R-rated movie because they wanted our child to be exposed to this. That was the last time they ever took her anywhere, but still, it was done. Whatever she saw in that movie was in her head. But family will do things, sometimes viciously, sometimes they're actually trying to help. But of course, if you rear your children right, you'll see the behavior coming out. So she got a white doll, and she got a black Barbie doll with the white girl features for Christmas, I think the same year. She looked at him, brought him to me because she knew heads were coming off. I think this no, that's not the last one. Oh wow. This is for the sisters. Mama Marimba Ani, she had an essay dealing with African women's power. And she listed this is half of the list of things that are the responsibility of African women in terms of them being of good character or becoming of good character. This is what they do. Be life affirming, be in a partnership with an African man. Be a political organizer. Function as part of a collective. Exert influence. Speak for the ancestors. Be an advocate for Africa. Be a mother who does whatever is necessary to protect her child. Teach. I don't know any African women who don't do that. So be a healer, represent the continuity of African people, represent the stability of the African family, maintain and pass on African culture. You are the socializers. Organize and direct the African market. African women have always been in charge of our markets. The goddess of the basket, which you collect the seeds and then get your harvest from, female. Understand the spirit of economic exchange and distribution of our resources. One of the most wonderful things I saw at a market was sisters had different stands, and this one sister wasn't making much profits. So the other sisters started sending their customers to her. That's what we call community. Be a spiritual leader, be an intellectual, be divine, which you are. Now I've got like a ton to go. But what I want to do is talk about a few, and then I'll be through. This bottom picture is extremely important because that's our model of protection. That's our model of organization. We are people of the circle. We are a people of the circle. And when we look at our community in terms of protection, then we have concentric circles. That means circles within circles. Whatever, you know what's most important on your body by how well it's protected. If you didn't know anything about anatomy, you know what's most important to you by your anatomy, by your bone structure. You know your brain is most important because your brain is completely encased in bone. You know that your heart is most important because you got your breastplate. Okay, the organs need to move, so you can't, the ribs have to serve the rest. And young folks will ask, well, you got no ribs down here. Well, pregnancy, putting on weight, all the rest of it, they need somewhere to expand it. So you know what's most important by what's protected the most. So the most important thing in our community are the children and the elders. The children are the future. And the elders know who we are better than anybody else, so they pass that on to the little ones. The men are the outermost circle. They're the periphery. They're the first line of defense. They're supposed to be the first ones to meet the enemy. If you get past the men, then you have to deal with the women, and our women aren't anything to play with. But the women also need to be closer to the children because men don't have the ability to breastfeed. So this circle model makes perfect sense. Perfect common sense for people who study the universe. Because you see those layers of protection everywhere in one form or the other. You see those layers of protection everywhere. We are the only people on this planet who take our children and put them in front of the enemy instead of putting them behind us. We're the only people who do that. And we say that a lot of times we'll say, well, we're doing this to protect the children, even though obviously that's not the case. But we are afraid for us, what they'll do to us if we don't raise our children in the way they want them to be raised. Because if the child goes to school and politely corrects the teacher on a historical fact, then the school system is going to be looking at the parent. So we're trying to protect ourselves. We're not trying to protect our children. That's lame. That's a lame excuse. We use it all the time in one way or the other. This is an excellent, superb model of what we are. And the Battle at Kruger, look up the video, the Battle at Kruger, I think it's Kruger. The Battle at Kruger is about some water buffalo. Yep. And this baby water buffalo gets behind the crowd, if you will. And the lions attack this baby water buffalo. And the water buffalo herd, it keeps moving on, but it stops. And it watches, and I'm assuming it's trying to say, okay, well, let's see how tough this baby is. Let's give him some experience in the world. Because they weren't, freaking out in the skin and stuff. But after a while, They started moving back toward the lions. And then you see lions getting jettisoned in the air by these water buffalo. The problem for so many of us is we don't go back. This is scary. If we're not, I mean, these are things that we need to look at in order to determine what we have to do. If our children are being taken out from under our noses, if we go to a school and we find out that this child has been given some kind of drug to slow him or her down without our permission and we didn't know, they don't have any fear of you. They drug your child, do whatever they want to your child. We have to correct this stuff at family because that's where it's growing. That's where it extends into the future. If we want to change, they know you want to change the people, change the children. That's why all this sexual insanity is geared toward the children. They're not worried about the adults. They're not putting it on your, they're giving it straight to the children because they're trying to change the children. If they can change them, they won't know that they're African, and anybody who tries to tell them that they're African will get cursed out. Because that's all they know. And then they're going to pass that on to their children at an even more aggressive rate. Yeah, we talked about those already. We'll do this. We did the concentric circle. We've got to start thinking about each other as precious resources. You think about coal, diamonds, cobalt, whatever, trees. Most important precious resources, most important valuable resources for us and each other. We are our most important valuable resource. And I can't remember a conversation where that was really talked about. We are our most important valuable resource. So for brothers, women are one of our most valuable, our most precious natural resources. Without them, there are no children. And they can play around with implanting wombs in males if they want to, but how unnatural can you get? Without them, there are no children, and we have no balance without either. Therefore, they must be protected at all costs. There shouldn't be anything better protected in our communities than our women. No one should be better protected in our communities than and there was a time when I was a child when that was the case. When I was a child, you were a European and you walked through our neighborhood. We weren't just, where you trying to get to? Can we help you? No, you were watched. Every move you made, you were watched. There was this sense of responsibility, obligation, and duty. India will often talk about her grandfather, this drunk white guy, came onto their property, going into her mother's house where I believe her sister was. Granddad, no concern with consequences, he brought a shotgun. Solved the problem. That's the perfect model for a boy. You don't let anybody touch your sisters. And when I was coming up also, you didn't hit a girl. Yes, I know stuff was a little different. You didn't hit a girl. You're supposed to be protecting them. They're your sisters, all of them. I remember getting into a fight with two girls. They picked the fight. They were hitting on me. I swung back. I'm trying to protect my face. They run off. I go home. My mother been watching them from the porch. I got my behind whipped. Because it had to be clear, under no circumstances do you hit a girl unless she's doing something that can endanger your life. So my father would say, if she breaks the Coke bottle, and she's coming at you with a jagged edge, you have permission to knock her out, but that's it. It's got to be a reason at that level. And for him, it's like, you knock her out, then you take her to the emergency room. You don't just knock her out and leave her there. The positioning of the children is one of the most telling indicators of the state of consciousness of a people. A living people are aware of being assaulted, corral their offspring within the inner circle of their defensive wall. They do all in their power to make them invisible to the enemy. What do What do you do when the enemy comes to your door and you have children? How do you make it so that the children are not invisible? That was my question to my students when I was at Morehouse. How do you make your children invisible? Those people who are unaware or welcoming of their destruction allow the most vulnerable among them to play beyond the protection in the killing fields. Often as bearers of the individualistic survivalist slave mentality, they use their own children as a sacrificial shield against others' vicious onslaught. And I know I've said this movie, I don't know how many times, but there's a movie called The Dead Zone, based on a book called The Dead Zone by Stephen King. And I'm not promoting Stephen King, he's a racist writer. In this movie, this guy was in his accident. A white guy was in an accident. He was in a coma for a number of years. He woke up. He had been engaged before that, all the rest of his life. His life was all tore up. But he was in this coma, and he woke up, and he discovered he had this power. He had the ability to read the future of a person if he touched them. And he discovered this because the nurse came to do something for him. He touched her, and he saw that her house was on fire. He told her to go home, and she went home, and the house was on fire, and she saved her children, blah, blah, blah. A little while later, and he walked with a cane, a little while later, his ex-fiancée was married, and she came by the house handing out literature for the guy who she was trying to get elected. And of course, they immediately recognized each other and blah, blah, blah. And she introduced the candidate to him, and he shook his hand, and he saw that if this guy became president, he would start a thermonuclear war and destroy everybody. She said, that's why I'm here. Because he was wondering why they had this power. I hate this. He said, okay, that's why I'm here. So he got his rifle and he went into the loft of a church in the back, and where there was going to be an event, a lecture, a talk by the guy who's running for office. And people started coming in, and the guy pulled out his rifle, aimed at the guy, and somebody said, "Gun, gun!" And they shot him. He fell off the loft. He didn't die. He didn't die immediately. He fell off the loft, and the girl, the woman, came and touched him to see, that was her ex-fiancé. So she touched him. And when she touched him, he saw that this guy didn't get elected, that there was peace in the world. And then they showed later why. Because when they said gun, the guy was talking to a family. When they said gun, he picked up one of the children and did this.
Oh, man.
And that hit the news. That's us. That's us. In general, that's us. We're using our children for shields because we don't want to receive the wrath of Yurugu by not raising them to be Yurugu friendly. That's us. And when I saw that scene in that movie, that's immediately what clicked. That's us. So this will be the last slide, but this is the, but I'm gonna see you next week. These are two of my favorites right here. Those are two of my favorites. And that's the third favorite right over there, always running across the screen dancing. But this is the lecture that I want you all to really be there. I go through, I don't know how many different things that we need to think about that are core in terms of securing our homes, our spaces, our vehicles, everything about securing us. And I do this every year. This is the best attended online lecture I do. And I get about twice as many sisters as I do brothers, but the brothers come. Usually we have a case of the big head, I already know how to protect my home, blah, blah, blah. The brothers come. But this is the one. This is the only one that now, because so many people come, I do it twice a year. There's no other lecture that I do twice a year. So folks come, so I ask you, please attend. You will learn something. This is like the old wisdom, the stuff that people stop doing because, the police are going to take care of us or whatever. When I was coming up, They understood. And these things, a lot of the things I talk about here were things that were practiced then that make perfect sense anytime, but we're not aware of them anymore. And back then they were common sense. They were common sense. The men and the women, they were common sense. Sister having a pot of boiling water sitting on the stove when somebody came in to fix the refrigerator or water heater and they didn't know them. Oh, I'm just getting ready to cook some macaroni. They got a weapon. He's going to catch maybe not hot grits or who's that? And the grits are better because they stick. You can't wipe them off. They're going to hang in there. And that's common sense. That's not complicated. How much does it cost to have some water boiling on your stove? So none of these things in this discussion cost, a chunk of money. They're all simple things that you can do. So you're cordially invited to this. And on that note, I'm going to stop. Do we have time, or do we have room for Q&A, or do we?
Your house, Father.
So I need a chair. All right, questions? Or comments? What is your curses? Thank you. So any comments, questions, curses, and
What started you on this road, brother?
My brother telling me I was going to become an uncle. Because at that time, if you know somebody who drinks heavily, then you know that they drink every day. And they drink all day long. That was me, along with a bunch of other drugs that went along with that. Smoked cigarettes, I did everything, that I could possibly do to destroy myself. And one day my brother came and he said, "You're gonna be an uncle." And I knew it was gonna be a girl. And I went home and I looked in the mirror and I said, "Is this how I want her to see me when she grows up?" And I said, "No." And to make a long story short, packed up my clothes in a duffel bag, put that and my stereo and my cat in the car, drove to my parents' home, put the cat in the yard, sold the car, applied to every HBCU in Alabama. Said the first one that accepts me, that's where I'll go. Alabama State accepted me. I was very lucky because Alabama State had a policy, tabula rasa, where whatever GPA you have, you start out with 0. I had attended the University of Maryland, I attended Prince George's Community College, Minot State College, mainly for money. I came in with the GI Bill. So you received a certain amount of money for quarter time, half time, 3/4 time, full time. And that was part of my drinking money. So my grades were, I had like a D average. I didn't care, I'm trying to get the money. I registered for class, and I went to this sister who was my advisor. She was older to be like an aunt. And she said, "Well, you can't register for 5 classes. You're a transfer student." And I said, I almost begged her, just let me, and I'll never ask you for anything again. And she looked at me. I was the oldest student on campus. So she looked at me. I graduated college at 27. So she looked at me and she said, "Okay, I'll let you do this time." Came back at the end of the quarter, 5 A's. Graduated with a 3.87 GPA. Number 1 in my class. Received a full fellowship to University of Chicago. And it's interesting to me, I was angry for a while because I applied to, I guess about 15 schools. I applied to Harvard, I applied to Yale, I applied to Stanford, I applied to University of Oxford. I applied to New School for Social Research. I applied to University of Michigan. I applied to all the big boys. And I applied to Howard. Howard was the only school that didn't accept me. They did not accept me. That hurt. I wanted to come back home. But they did not. They were the only school that did not accept me. When I got to, and it's interesting to me looking back because I drank my way through undergrad. Those years with 3.87, I drank my way through. I have no idea what I could have done, if I hadn't. But I drank and I stayed high. When I walked across the stage to get my diploma, I tripped and almost fell off the other step. Security guard had to catch me. I was drunk on graduation. Went to the University of Chicago. Met NEI on the very first day. And it was like somebody who knew that I had issues, but also understood the potential and was going to try to guide me in a particular direction, but wasn't going to force anything. And I imagine if it had gone so far, she'd left. I know I would have. Got through my first few years, got my master's done, and I started spending time in the library. There's a section